guys, and welcome back to Two Beards and a Plan. As you can see, I don't have my counterpart for today, but instead I have my good friend Christian here. So Christian, tell us about yourself.
Christian Logan, firefighter EMT, rescue specialist. Been doing it almost 30 years. Got to do some real cool stuff over the time. I got to run a mountain wilderness search and rescue team for the state for a couple of years. Got to become a rescue swimmer. Got to do some really cool stuff working in different vertical realms, meet some really interesting, knowledgeable people, and have picked up a couple of tricks along the way.
All right, good deal. So what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, so it's when you called me earlier this week, we were just talking about some basic rudimentary knots and rope usage that can be used, and as opposed to going way deep down into the rescue or technical side, that rabbit holes, but just some everyday things can be used, things you need to be aware of, how to be safe, especially if you're in a position where you need to raise or lower a load, or a person, say you're out hiking, or you come across a car wreck and someone's down a hill and they don't need immediate medical attention, but they need assistance coming up. So, some things like that, things that you can do with just a piece of rope. And, if you have the wherewithal to pick up a couple of things of hardware from either a rescue shop, or, if you find the right stuff at Lowe's, you can get away with a lot of stuff as long as you're not putting a live load on it.
All right. So let's let you guys know, and this is building up to probably a month or 2 month long series where I'm going to go into detailed hands-on instructions and basic knot tying over the next couple of months. So we'll get to it.
The dynamic rope isn't going to have this in there, and hardware store rope isn't going to have it in there. But if you have a question, if a rope is considered life safety by NFPA's 1983, every one of them, we'll cut it, maybe, deal with that in a minute. All right, every one of them is laid in static kern mantle with a piece of silk in it. You just have to cut it to dig it out. And it's tough it's white silk. Tape, and it will run the entire length of the rope. It's laid with all the other strands, and on it, it gives all the information for this rope. It says meets requirements for life safety rope of NFPA 1983, 2012. Classified, fiber rope. First quarter of 2016, which matters. NFPA for life safety rope gives a 10-year lifespan on light use rope. So the first quarter of 2016, by the end of next March, that rope is no longer considered life safety. And it'll also give you manufacturing information. This one was made by Turfelberger fiber rope. I thought it was sterling. But no hardware store rope, no cordelette, no climbing rope will have it in there. That will be all in any life safety rope. I say that because we were just talking about the strength of the rope. NFPA sets standards for what life safety rope has to be able to take. That 3/8 10 mil rope, somewhere around 3,800 pounds of minimum breaking strength, not working load limit, completely different thing. That's a rigging crane thing, but minimum breaking strength. And then it goes up higher with each increase the diameter rope. Hardware store rope is different. Manila rope, rope that's been bad, climbing rope, the dynamic rope. So that's how you tell. All right, so basic knots. We'll talk about some that need to be known and then how you can apply them. So some of the basic knots are clove hitch, which is 2 half hitches combined. So a half hitch. We talked off camera about the square knot, which is kind of pointless. It looks cool. I use it maybe one spot ever, and I found ways to work around it without using that, because that's the one that I have to tie 2 or 3 times just because how it works, and it's not used a lot. Figure 8s, figure 8 on a bite, and a figure 8 retrace to give you some anchors there, bite and fly, and a bowline. So those are kind of the, oh, and maybe a butterfly, an inline anchor point that serves 2 different purposes. But so as we were just talking, different practical applications. So off camera, we'd mentioned if you had 2 different sections of rope that weren't the same diameter. If they're the same diameter, you could use a figure 8 retrace, which show that in a minute to make it work. But old school thinking is if you have 2 sections of rope that are 2 different diameters. So I've got this 10 mil here and 8 mil. So that's 2 different diameters. It was something they called I think it was called a Beckett bend. And it begins like a square knot, but it locks down on itself with this bar across it. So you can join 2 sections of non-similar rope. I like it. It works, but in my mind, there's better ways. So that's one. To build the second part, what I would probably do if it was me and build something called a floating anchor or the end to it, we've got to start with a basic on the 8 series. So for a figure 8, now so we're all on the same piece of terminology here. We've got a running end way out here, and this is my standing end that goes back to my rope bag, my rope pile. So we'll take the running end and we'll put a bend in it. Well, this bend is called a bite, all right? Everything is a bite with a bend in it. So if you put a bend in it, you cross it once, then cross it back again, and you'll see there's an 8 formed. Well, that's a figure 8. It's a figure 8 stopper knot. It's used to, if it's at the end of the rope and you're having to rappel down, or if you're low on equipment down, or you don't want anything coming off the end of that rope, that's a good stopping point. It's a self-tightening knot. It won't come untied. Well, that's the basis. So if I was going to do a figure 8 on a bite, again, here's that bite, but we will bend that bite over, and then we will do the same maneuvers we did with that first one. We're going to put a bite in, I'm going to wrap once, and I'm going to wrap twice and go back through this hole in the middle, making that figure 8. And now you see we've created our own loop. And we make sure all of our ropes travel the same way, what's called dressing the knot so that everything's smooth. We don't have any extra points in there. A couple of reasons for that. One, in the dark, I can just run my hands over this knot and know it's tied correctly. And from a distance, I can look and say, oh, that's all right. There's some discussion. I've talked with some rock climbers who don't see the benefit of it. But for me, just a couple of extra seconds, and now I can look at that from a distance and like, oh, okay, that's tied well, appropriately. It looks neat. All the ropes lay together. So if I was to tie that, then I've made an anchor or an end to any rope. And from there, I could attach another rope on, right? If I needed to extend that rope without using the Beckett bend, I think is what it was called. But I would probably do the same thing. I would hang it. Which is, see, I may have, let's make it simpler. All right, so I've tied this. Probably should have done this. Starting from the scratch, just go ahead and tie this. Then now the figure 8 retrace. So it's figure 8 stopper knot, but what we'll do is we'll take this running end and put it around whatever we're tying to and trace our way back through the knot. So I'm gonna see if I can't do this upside down and backwards for you. So if you can see with this weird cordelette I have here, I'm just going to follow that initial path back through and retrace the path of that rope to where as I finish, I still have that figure 8, if you can tell with that weird design on the cordelette. There's that figure 8, the same as this one. I just retraced it through, hits the figure 8 retrace. Now I have made that rope that much longer. Depends on your application. There will be some movement there, some friction. Me, if I had a carabiner to put in place, that'd be better for me. But rope on rope creates friction. I'd rather have a piece of metal in there. But if we're talking about an emergency situation, you kind of do what you got to do. So those, the other one I mentioned, we'll get this white rope back, is we'll talk about the butterfly, or the alpine butterfly. And I know personally 2 ways to tie this. Whichever's easiest. I do prefer one way because it gives me more use to the rope. The alpine butterfly is an inline knot that will give you a point to tie into in a rope. Say if I need to attach myself to this rope and a partner further down the rope, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to attach in here. It also, and this is the reason why I tie it my way, it takes a bad section of rope out. So we've already talked about the static, or the kern mantle, and that the kern inside carries the, the weight. So say I'm using this rope, and through that mantle, I see damage, and I see kern coming out that's damaged. Now I have to be really concerned over what's going on under that mantle. I can't see inside. I know there's damage. I've got to assume there's more damage. I need this rope, but I need to get that section out. So just say right here in my hand is that bad section. If I grab it, holding it here, flip it once, flip it twice, I'm still holding it. I will take this bite here, go back to the heel of my hand. We see this hole I've created here as it lays over. Rewind the video, watch it again, watch it again, watch it again. Grab the bite here and pull it back through. I have controlled that bad section of rope the whole time. Now, if you'll watch, as I put tension on this rope and I'm pulling, there's nothing on it. All the weight is out. Every piece of weight this rope is using is running from here through the knot down to the load. This is out. There's no tension on here. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to trust it. I don't have to contend with it anymore. So that's one way of tying it, and why I prefer to tie it that way. The other way to tie this, some people prefer this a little simpler. I'm gonna have to step in here. It's a lay by your thumb, a lay on your fingers, and then a lay through the middle. Again, this is simpler. Then we take this loop by our fingers, run it to the heel of our palm, back under and pull, and we end up with the same end result. My thing about it is, if I'm having to try and track that one bad piece of rope, getting it to lay at the right spot to make it go away, to get out of my system, is why I don't. So a couple different ways to tie it, a couple of different reasons to tie it. A clove hitch, really simple to tie. Do it right here around this post. Take this off for a second. If you have where you can get to the top of whatever you're gonna anchor to or use, a tree, whatever, and you just need to tie it, get your hands, let's see, all right, opposite one another, and roll the rope together. You see how that's rolling, those two loops, and then lay them this way. All right, I can drop it over, and this knot will cinch down on itself. The tighter I pull on this running end, the tighter it pulls the shut down on that standing end. All right, that was cool. Here's the mechanics of it. This is how we tie it the other way. And you try this on a piece of flat iron or a rope corral. We'll go around, come back over, create an X here, and then come back under. You see that X crosses, and as this pulls, it tightens around and tightens down and locks down on that. I just thought of something. We're gonna do this one. Follow me to the telephone pole. We're going to put our figure 8 on a bite in. There will be no weight on this. This is just to control the end of the rope. This is one, everyone likes all those cool knots. This is called a tensionless hitch. And this knot loses 0% of the rope strength. And it is simply make it nice and neat. Carabiner it off just so we control that end. And you can pull, and until you reach the breaking strength of this rope, that's not gonna turn loose. It's called a tensionless hitch. It's not gonna turn loose at all. And Mr. Cameraman, can you pull on that? Just pull as hard as you can. And there's almost nothing on here. You can, I'll take this off and hold it here, and you pull, and you'll see it doesn't move. If you notice, it's constricting down on itself. So called a tensionless hitch. I don't know why people have kind of got away from using those, especially if you're in a wilderness setting, whatever. This goes around a tree, and you see there's nothing on here. I've got a lot of load out there, and I can just take this off. You know, there's no trying to fight through a knot that I've tied.